Call the regular city council meeting Monday, January 12, 2015 to order. Clerk, call the roll, please.
Alderman Putoff.
Here.
Ferrari.
Here.
Waldorf. Here. Lukosius.
Here.
Perez.
Here.
Radke.
Here.
Mueller.
Here.
Sapienza. Mayor Harrell.
Here. Pledge of allegiance. Presentation, Friends for the Pool.
We're here representing Friends for Peru Pool. We have money to present to add to the fund, but before that I want to tell you what's coming up. We just finished in November the Bergner's Community Day sale event where we sell booklets, and I didn't bring one up here, just a moment. We sell these booklets. They're $5 a piece, but in it there's over $500 worth of coupons. The best one is $10 off, one item of $10 or more. And then there's % off and coffee coupons, all that good stuff. We get to keep the whole $5 if we sell the book. If another organization sells the book, we don't get anything. But we hope that you'll help us and support us, maybe buy your booklet tonight. The next sale is February 27th and 28th. And we hope if anybody could maybe take 5 books and sell them. You have different friends than what we on the pool committee have. If you could take 5 books and sell, that would up how much we can add to the fund. So see me if you can. I have books with me. After the Community Day sale, the next thing after that, right after it, is Hy-Vee. And the Hy-Vee promotion is March 5th, 6th, and 7th. It's a Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. If you live in Peru, you're going to get a lime green sheet of paper with 3 forms on it to take to Hy-Vee any of those days. And whatever you spend, you turn it in, and Hy-Vee will give us 5% of the sales. Last time, we got $380. But if more people participate, we could be getting over $1,000. But it's a little hard to get the word out. We no longer have Channel 13. So if you have ideas for how we can get the word out too, we'd appreciate that. But you'll get 3 forms. You may not go there 3 days. If you cut those apart and give it to somebody who doesn't live in Peru, maybe they'll turn the form in for us. And we would appreciate that. There's 5 people on our committee. Not everybody can be here tonight. So Gina and I are here tonight. For the past Community Day sale, we sold booklets. And we have the money from it tonight. So we have a total of $1,380.76. That's the best we've done so far. And I thank all of you who bought booklets, and I hope you'll do it again. Dave's coming.
Well, that was almost going to be a good picture.
And I'm sure you've heard we did get the OSLAD grant for the splash pad project and the other recreation facilities. And thank you for Mike Perry and Eric Carls. They made the presentation in October to the committee. And as I understand, did a bang-up job of it.
We appreciate everybody's help.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Okay, we have 2 public comment cards filled out. We'll take them in order they were put in. And Ms. Laurel Mays would like to speak about the rezone and variance.
Despite the short time between the planning and zoning meeting and the inclement weather that we had, we've collected 41 signatures from this single-family neighborhood expressing that the rezoning and subsequent setback variances be denied. The signatures come from residents on Plum, Rock, 14th, and West Streets, and from Baker Lane and Shooting Park Road. While walking the neighborhood, we met only the nicest folks that we would all love to have as our neighbors. Several residents have lived in this neighborhood for over 50 years, indicating their contentment with it. Others have lived in the area only a few years, indicating a continuing attraction to this area. Why would the city of Peru want to upset this idealistic situation? So not all residents expressed the following points. We will summarize the main comments made while we spoke with them. Residents do not want business expanded westward along Shooting Park Road. Residents do not want the 1328 Shooting Park Road house raised for an apartment building, or office building, I mean. Rock Street residents complained that employees of the 1222 Shooting Park offices park in the street instead of in the parking lot, making driving along this narrow road difficult. Rock Street residents also complained about 1915 Rock Street and 1215 15th Street for poor home and yard maintenance and undesirable renters. These two homes are directly south of the 1222 Shooting Park Road office building and may be an effect of this business district on nearby properties that resulted in degradation of the neighborhood and in lower residential property values. Other concerns that my husband and I have include the B5 designation has 16 allowed uses, some that could bring undesirable characters close to Northview School, which the city will not be able to stop in the future if this designation is made. Northview School will be there for the next century and needs the nice neighborhood preserved for the benefit of the city. Northview School's new entrance will be on Plum Street. This will change the traffic patterns for that area at least twice a day. The city of Peru needs to develop a long-range plan that allocates specific areas of the city to specific needs. Peru needs to concentrate on revitalizing present business districts rather than creating new office business territory. Peru needs to update its rezoning and variance policies to better inform residents of potential changes and place the obligation of defending the change on the petitioner rather than the citizens. We urge the city of Peru to consider these arguments when voting on this rezone and variance. Again, we believe the city should deny this entire request. If the council decides to approve the rezoning, we request that the setback variances apply only to the present building and not any future buildings. Respectfully submitted by my husband and I.
Okay, Mr. Jim Spellich, do you have a card filled out?
Thanks for allowing me to speak. First of all, the reason I'm here is my father-in-law purchased the house that we're talking about. And I've been in business for the last 20 years in financial services. I work with Raymond James in Peru. I've worked here, I've worked in Peru my whole life. And currently I work at 1800 4th Street in the upstairs office. And I've been looking for a place on the first floor where there's a little bit more visibility, a little bit more ability for our clients, because there's some steps that they have to go up for just basically to make it easier for everybody that shows up. And I have no intentions of doing anything other than meeting with my clients there. And as far as undesirable people, you know, that's not going to be an issue. I mean, actually, I don't think anybody's going to even know that we're there. I'm going to be working from 8 to 5. All of my appointments are by appointment only. Most of my business is done by the telephone. And as far as the outside structure, there's no changes. And, you know, at any time, there may be one person and they're outside of my assistant. So as far as large amounts of traffic and congestion and those kind of things, you know, it would not exist and it would not happen. So I'm looking for the ability just to move an office there, just to meet my clients and not disrupt the neighborhood. And I appreciate the fact that, you know, they went out and got signatures and got some representation through the neighborhood, because I appreciate that and I understand where they're coming from. But the truth of the matter is, I'm running a business where it's quiet, we do our business, and we go home. It's from 8 to 5. There will be no disruption whatsoever in the neighborhood or anything to do in that house. So if they want to speak privately or, you know, and talk about it a little bit more, you know, as far as the zoning and getting that changed, you know, the only thing I can say is nothing is going to change to that property. And as far as the time that'll be spent there, I won't be there on the weekends. There'll be no evenings. So I would look for approval on the property, because it's a good location for me. It's a good location for our business, and that's basically why I wanted to move there. And I'll be, like I said, just it's from 8 to 5, and it won't be any disruption at all to the neighborhood. So that's all I have to say. Thanks.
Well, actually, it's Laurel, so convey it to her.
When I referred to the B5 designation before, there's a list of 16 items on there. What Mr. Spellich is trying to do, I really don't have a big problem with. It's what's going to happen when he retires. Who's going to buy it next, and what are they going to do with it? And I think that's the point that the neighborhood is concerned about. My husband attended the zoning meeting, and it was presented at first that nothing would happen to the house, but because of the B5 designation, the house would be required to be updated to code and ADA standards, and that brought up the possibility of raising the house, and so that's where my raising issue came from.
Jim, could you address that?
I can. In no way, shape, or form is the house going to get raised. That comment was made in jest, just because my father-in-law, I think, was a little, if any of you guys know Bill, he just says what he says, and he has no intention of raising or knocking down the house or anything like that. And as far as my retirement, I plan on being in business for quite some time. So, and actually, it is a house. The outside is not going to be changed. So, if somebody want to convert it back to a house, because the only thing I'm really looking at doing inside is building a wall to cover up the entryway where the kitchen, because you walk in and the kitchen is right there. And I thought it would be more of an office environment with a wall going across there, so you don't walk right into the kitchen, which I think is a little bit more professional looking. And that's the only thing I'm doing to the house. So, if I retire at some point and someone wants to buy that home, all they got to do is take the wall down. There's a kitchen and bathroom. I mean, everything. It's a house. So as far as that part of it goes, there's really no structural changes inside also. So I don't know what you guys want me to do, but it is a house and it's easily convertible back to a house. So, and I know the neighbor next door is a part of this also, and I think he lives in Rhode Island. He's renting the house right now anyway. So, I mean, it's I don't know if that's coded differently or not, but I mean that right now is a rental anyway. So.
Just to correct one thing, at the hearing, your father-in-law or the petitioner never said he was ever going to raise the house. How that came up is the member on the Plan Commission, Paul Basali, is an architect, and he was telling him that when you convert from residential to commercial, there's a whole different set of rules that you have to abide by, including electrical, then has to all be in conduit. You have to have the 36-inch doorways to be able to accommodate wheelchairs, the swing on the doors, the handles on the doors. And then it came up, just like the Pru-Waltham Insurance Company on Peoria Street, that oftentimes it is cheaper to raise and build new than it is to try to renovate an existing structure to make it commercial. But he never said, Jim, that he was ever going to raise it.
Okay.
But it came up after the architect told him all the things you have to do to convert from residential to commercial.
Okay. Well, knowing Bill, he could have very well said that. But I understand. Thanks.
Corporate counsel, I have a question. Now, we have like residents that have like Mary Kay or maybe some beautician, they do beauty work out of their home.
Yeah, but that's a home occupation
Do you
use.
necessarily have to go to?
Yeah, no, home occupation use is not applicable because that's a residence that you actually live in.
I do have a question on that.
Unless you want to move there and live there, and there's just,
Some of the homes that have been converted into office places throughout the city, are all those under the same rules here?
well, they would be, yes.
Even
Even-
that were offices that were maybe 10 years ago?
Yeah, whether or not they're complying with all the codes you have to comply with, I have no idea, but even when I bought another existing commercial building on Marquette Road that is now Marquette Center, we had to comply with all the ADA, and that's why I had to put in the elevator to go up just 6 steps. But yeah, so it isn't it's the renovation of an existing or a change in use, then you have a whole different set of rules.
Doug, one of the questions I think that some of the residents are concerned about is that this special use would be converted to something else at a later date.
Well, let's clarify that. It would not be a special use. It would be a zoning reclassification.
What my emphasis on, would it be better to place it under a special use, and would that be allowed? That way the residents would have at least the ability to know that this was going to stay in the same structure that it is currently, and that it applies as long as this individual is in business, meaning he's not going to alter the structure, and as soon as he gets out of that business, that of course special use ends and it goes back to a residential use. Is that something that would make it better for the residents?
I talked about that and briefly, but I think what you would have to do is it's currently zoned R2, so it would have to be changed to a R3 zoning because there's no office special use in an R2 zoning.
That is not good zoning. I mean, stuff is either residential or it's commercial. Now, to accommodate a particular property, now you're going to take something from residential, and then you're going to say, well, yeah, but now let's have special uses that we could have commercial within that special use. I don't think that's good city policy, and it certainly is not good zoning. Right, well, that's the difference, and that's what the alderman question was, a home occupation use. There are provisions in the zoning ordinance that provide for a home occupation use, and there are 10 requirements to meet that. First, you would have to have the use requirement, so that may require a text amendment to also include financial services. It generally was meant to address the situation of possibly a daycare center, maybe just a person that's baking cupcakes out of their house, but they're selling those for commercial purposes. But no more than 25% of the ground floor area can be used for that commercial activity. No one can be employed on the premises other than the people that actually live in the residence. You can't have a sign more than 1 square foot. You know, you have certain hours of operation, but even that would require a text amendment. But I mean, you'd have to live there personally too, and no more than 25% of the ground floor area could be devoted to the business.
Corporate Counsel, I spoke with Mr. Majenski yesterday. Do we know if he's aware that if his property, if we rezone this to a B5, if his property is destroyed, he will not be able to rebuild his property as a residence? Because I believe that he's wanting.
That would be correct.
I believe he's wanting to come back and possibly live there in June. He's living in Maine now, so. But if something was to happen, whether it be a fire or a tornado and destroys it, he cannot have that home, correct?
That would be correct.
Do we know if he knows that?
Well, they requested in the petition and then the proposed ordinance provides that even though if there was a zoning reclassification, that he can continue to occupy it as a residence. Now, I mean, whether or not he knows if it's burned down, if he could rebuild it or not, that use would be a non-conforming use that could not be rebuilt. But what he knows or don't know, I don't know. He's represented by an attorney, and I've never met nor spoken with Mr. Majenski.
Any other discussion on it right now? Ms. Mays or Mr. Spellich, did you have anything else that you wanted to add on your public comment?
Well, I mean, that's a good point. There's no doubt that if just this property was rezoned, that I think it would be considered spot zoning. But now they ask for a zoning reclassification of both properties along the front, which then makes it already contiguous to an existing B5 office business district zoning, the office building there. So no, it would all be within a contiguous zoning classification. But this one, without the Majenski property, would be spot zoning.
So I think the Maples across the street is B5.
Yeah, but I mean, you know, here we have this, and then, well, we're just going to run across the street and then pick up another 60 feet of frontage. I mean, that's not good zoning. You want to have somewhat homogeneous use within certain zoning districts.
Okay, we have a motion to receive the minutes and place on file.
It's so moved, Your Honor.
Second, Your Honor.
Have a motion by Alderman Putoff, second by Alderman Waldorf to receive the minutes and place on file. Is there any discussion? All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carried. Reports will go to committee. Finance, Safety Services, Chairman, Alderman Putoff.
Alderman Radke, would you enlighten us with the disbursements, please?
I will, if I can get there. Okay, total disbursements for January 14 of 2015, $1,123,863.75. I move that we receive that report, place on file, and pay the bills in the usual manner.
I'll second that, Your Honor.
Have a motion by Alderman Radke, second by Alderman Perez to receive the disbursements, place on file, and pay the bills in the usual manner. Is there any discussion? Have roll call vote, clerk call roll.
Alderman Putoff. Aye. Ferrari.
Aye.
Waldorf.
Aye.
Lukosius.
Aye.
Perez.
Aye.
Radke.
Aye.
Mueller.
Aye.
Sapienza.
Motion approved.
We have the approved fire department report for a period ending January 3rd, 2015. I'll make a motion to accept that report and place it on file.
Second, Your Honor.
Have a motion by Alderman Ferrari, second by Alderman Putoff to receive approved fire department report and place on file. Is there any discussion? All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carried.
Your Honor, I have motion tonight to authorize a $2,500 donation to the 2015 Central States Baseball Tournament The city has had this in Peru and Oglesby for many years. It has been a very well-attended event. The community has been behind it, and certainly the city of Peru has been behind it a great deal. So I would say that it would be advantageous for the city to be involved and support this issue, so that's the motion I would make tonight.
Second, Your Honor.
Have a motion by Alderman Paul, second by Alderman Ferrari, to authorize $2,500 donation to the 2015 Central States Baseball Tournament. Is there any discussion? Have a roll call vote, clerk call roll.
Alderman Putoff.
Aye.
Ferrari.
Aye.
Waldorf.
Aye.
Lukostis.
Aye.
Perez.
Aye.
Radke.
Aye.
Mueller.
Aye.
Sapienza.
Motion approved.
Other items the Finance Committee recently has discussed on the agenda was the finances for the splash pad. It looks like typically funds for the OSLED grant do come in, but it's well after the project. So what we're looking at is what it will cost the city up front, and that'll be determined by the bids that we receive. I would imagine the city, after this project is approved or not cut from the state legislator, that we would move ahead and look to acquire bids for the project. And then after the bids are received, we look at as far as what monies or what funds would be have to placed up front of that. But I think the thing to know as a city council that typically in these funds that you do have to pay for the entire project, and it is many months before you receive the payment. You know, so one of the positive issues is it is a grant from the state of Illinois, and the money is promised. But again, you will have to front that money up front. So we will look for ways where the city is able to do that. Any questions?
What is the city's final investment in that? It's pennies on the dollar, isn't it?
Well, I think really it will come out to what the bids are. I think preliminary, we have, Eric, do you have those figures in front of you?
Our obligation is approximately 25% of the cost of the project, which currently we're looking at about $124,000 by estimate.
And again, we'll know more as those bids are received. And hopefully, as you see, I think we are all on really hopeful that the project will get approved. But as you see, there are some financial problems in Springfield. So when you do bring in a new administration, some things get cut and some things get placed in the budget. We're confident in the past for the history that you've seen as the OSLED grants are, those are typically protected. So that is something that bodes well for the city of Peru. But again, you never know. That's all in finances.
Public Services, Chairman Alderman Waldorf.
Library cash accounts, Alderman?
Your Honor, I've got the library report for December 31st, 2014. Had a total disbursements of $35,354.35 and a total balance of $496,056.41. If I can make a motion to accept the report and place on file.
Second, Your Honor.
I have a motion by Alderman Sapienza, second by Alderman Mueller, to receive approved public library cash count summary and place on file. Is there any discussion? All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carried.
Next, Your Honor, I would make a motion to authorize corporate counsel to take action regarding the demolition of the former Jewel property and related properties.
I'll second that, Your Honor.
What this is, Your Honor, is there's been some conversation between CVS and the contractor, and this is just to give them a little push in the
Right direction.
backside, the right direction to get them going.
Yeah, it's my understanding that the asbestos remediation has been completed. But as you know, when the city approved that project in the first instance and issued a certificate of occupancy, that was under the premise that the Jewel property, former Pizza Hut or Family Pride Cleaners, I guess subsequent to Pizza Hut, in the building to the south of there, the last house, chiropractor, I believe, were going to be raised. and for whatever reason, the property was remediated of asbestos issues. In fact, a couple people were apparently living in the old Pizza Hut property before they went in. So, I mean, they need to get pushed in the right direction, because that isn't the way it was represented to the city. And it's in, two of those buildings are certainly in violation of city codes.
Yeah, Doug, that was part of it. Yeah, you know, I really want to emphasize that the demolition was part of the agreement why
Absolutely.
why we had that CVS placed in the frontage area. And I don't know if we would have granted it without the demolition of the property. Cause
well, you know, wouldn't have been. You know, you're really looking at three different entities. It isn't CVS. You know, you have the owner of the property, and then you have the financing entity, and then CVS leases it. And normally on that, there may be a takeout after 5 years where they purchase it. I mean, the Walgreens is all leased. You know, I mean, all your Walgreens, to my knowledge, at least all the ones that I'm aware of, are on long-term leases. And CVS is the same way, but I understand this one may have a lot shorter takeout. So, you know, you're always dealing with the contractor or the developer of the property, and then their internal negotiations with the lessee, or in this case CVS. So they just need a push in the right direction.
Okay, we have a motion by Alderman Waldorf, second by Alderman Lukosius. Is there any more discussion? So we'll do a roll call vote. Clerk call roll.
Alderman Putoff.
Aye.
Ferrari.
Aye.
Waldorf.
Aye.
Lukosius.
Aye.
Perez.
Aye.
Radke.
Aye.
Mueller.
Aye.
Sapiens.
Motion approved. Anything further from public service?
No, sir.
Report city attorneys, ordinances, resolutions.
Yes, Your Honor. First, there was a joint hearing before the Plan Commission and Zoning Board of Appeals concerning the petition of the Chapman Family Limited Partnership and David and Margaret Medzanski concerning properties at 1308 and 1328 Shooting Park Road. Zoning Board of Appeals members, Brining Atkinson, Wujek, Gans, and Muller present at the hearing. Members Biederstadt and Miller were absent. Plan Commission members Atkinson, Grabowski, Mays, Basali, Ballard, Lucas, and Muller were present at the hearing. Biederstadt, Miller, and Spellich were absent. William Chapman, after being first duly sworn, stated he purchased the property at 1328 Shooting Park Road for an investment rental, and he desires a zoning reclassification of the property to B5 Office Business District to allow his son-in-law to conduct a financial services business from the property. Mr. Chapman stated that Mr. and Mrs. David Medzanski own the property to the east at 1308 Shooting Park Road, and they have joined in the petition, so there would be uniformity in the rezoning classification. In response to questioning from Member Atkinson, Mr. Chapman stated there would be no changes to the exterior of the existing residence on the property except a small sign and some landscaping. A wall would be constructed within the residence to convert it to a commercial office use. Zoning Officer Jeff King introduced an aerial of the subject properties into evidence and pointed out that the larger property to the east is owned by Mr. and Mrs. Medzanski. Further response to questioning from Member Atkinson, Mr. Chapman stated the access to the property would be off Shooting Park Road, and there would only be one customer at a time at the business. His son-in-law, Jim Spellich, is an investment counselor, and his clients are by appointment. Member Mays believes the city should keep as much residential property as possible because there are a few areas in the city to expand residentially. In response to questioning from Member Mays, Mr. Chapman stated that he did not consult with any of the neighbors, but the notice was published and the sign has been in the yard. He has heard of no objections to the petition. Further response to questioning from Member Mays, Mr. Chapman stated that the normal business hours would be Monday to Friday, 9 a.m., 5 p.m. Member Mays questioned whether the business would attract transient persons to the property, which, given the location of Northview School, would be undesirable. He further cautioned that although petitioner is requesting a B5 Office Business District classification, there are a lot of uses that can be within that classification. He then again expressed his concerns with the rezoning of residential property to commercial. He said the city is landlocked and there is little residential space available. He noted the Plan Commission will be meeting to discuss a new zoning map for the city. He believes the petition should be continued until after decisions have been made on that new zoning map. Member Mays moved to continue the hearing to a date certain in January 7, 2015 at 6:30 p.m. Member Mullen seconded the motion. Member Basali then commented that the subject area is not an automatic area for residential classification given all the commercial businesses and traffic along Shooting Park Road. He advised Mr. Chapman that it is not easy to convert a residence to a commercial use because as a commercial use, property is subject to many additional regulations under the Illinois Accessibility Code and the Americans with Disabilities Act. The size of doors may have to be changed. There has to be a right swing of doors. The electrical code will require conduit throughout. There is an energy code and also the International Building Code. He suggested it may be better to raise the existing structure and then rebuild it as was done in the Prue Waltham Insurance Building on Peoria Street. So that recommendation was from Member Basali, not from the petitioner. The motion to continue the hearing to a date certain of January 7, 2015 failed with Plan Commission members Mays, Basali, and Mullen voting aye, and Plan Commission members Atkinson, Grabowski, Ballard, and Lucas voting nay. Further response to questioning, it was noted the Medansky property is not requesting variances concerning parking or a reduction on minimum lot size. Mr. and Mrs. Medansky are, however, requesting that their residence be allowed to be maintained and occupied as single-family residence even if the property is rezoned. Zoning Board of Appeals member Brining then moved, and member Gann seconded. The Zoning Board of Appeals recommend the Plan Commission a property rezoned from R2 single-family detached residence district to B5 office business district. The motion passed with members Brining, Atkinson, and Gans voting aye, members Wujek and Mullen voting nay, and 2 members absent. Zoning Board of Appeals member Gans then moved, and member Atkinson seconded, that the variances as requested be favorably recommended to the City Council. Motion passed unanimously with members Brining, Atkinson, Wujek, Gans, and Mullen voting aye, and 2 members absent. Plan Commission member Lucas then moved, member Grabowski seconded. The Plan Commission favorably recommend the rezoning classification of the property from R2 single-family residential district B5 office business district to the City Council, provided, however, the petitioners comply with all local, state, and federal regulations concerning commercial uses of property if any of the property is converted from residential to commercial. The motion passed with members Atkinson, Grabowski, Basali, Lucas, and Mullen voting aye, members Mays and Ballard voting nay, and 2 members absent. Respectfully submitted, Thomas Atkinson, Chairman of the Plan Commission, and Vice Chairman of the Zoning Board of Appeals.
Your Honor,
Alderman Radke.
I'd like to move that we accept the minutes, place them on file, and refer the matter back to the Planning and Zoning for further review and recommendation.
I'll second that, Your Honor.
Can we have a motion to receive the minutes, place on file, and refer back to Planning and Zoning for further review and recommendation?
And I'll just state that the reason for that is that there's a lot of residents here that are not happy with the change. There's been a petition presented to the City Council tonight and some testimony made tonight, and I think that should be presented to the Zoning Board and the Planning Commission so that they can hear that testimony and make a decision. I think we really should give them the opportunity to hear that.
And on behalf, if you're looking from a business owner standpoint, what the business owner conveyed to us was obviously the property is going to remain residential in character. Right. And I don't believe all of the residents really understood that.
I also think exactly that the business owners should have the opportunity to discuss some of the issues with the residents around there, and that hasn't, to my knowledge, I don't know if it's happened yet. So I'd like to give it a little more time.
Okay, well, we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All in favor, signify by aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried. So we'll table that, send it back to Planning and Zoning for further review and recommendation.
Okay, that'll make the ordinances following moot and also tabled. That will require another publication and joint hearing. So for anyone interested in that, watch the newspaper. I don't know when that will be rescheduled, but I believe that the sign should go back up in the yards, and when you see that in another publication.
I just have one question on the sign too. I mean, just personally, I understand it's a joint petition, but to me, the best thing would be if there's a sign on all the parcels that are being.
That makes sense.
I don't know if we could get two signs. I think that would be a little.
The next matter is the execution of an intergovernmental agreement between the City of Peru and the City of LaSalle concerning a joint training facility for both the fire department and the police department. As a donation, I understand, from Illinois Cement, the City of LaSalle acquired a building and property south of Rotary Park. We're just listening to a voicemail, so what you have, it'll actually put in the address. The address would be 2839 Eagle Drive, LaSalle, Illinois. But it just says that that property would be jointly developed for those training facilities, at least initially between Peru and LaSalle. Other communities will be offered and invited to also participate, and maybe Jeff can expand.
Yeah, Illinois Cement donated this property, again, where Doug said it was going to be at. We're going to go in as far as Peru. We're going to put 5 cans in there, which cans are intermodal containers, so we can have a training facility to train the firemen with smoke and different things like that. And they got the property, so we wanted to have an intergovernmental agreement, because our hope is down the line here we're going to be hosting University of Illinois classes in this facility, which will bring a lot of people here. Talking with IFSI, being where we're located at, we're in the corridor of 39 and 80. This could be a very beneficial training facility, not only for them, but we could get money from them also to keep this place going. With the way we're going to construct this, it's real similar to what you'll see at the University of Illinois. We'll have 5 of these intermodal containers together. We'll be able to do rappelling. We'll be able to do burns in these, flashover simulators, hazmat, all aspects of the fire service training, and also the police departments will be able to use the cans to do searches or go in and do looking for people and stuff, like whatever they do. So.
But Jeff, I don't think a lot of people realize is how important it is that you have both communities fighting fires at the same time and both working on training, and same with law enforcement, that people don't realize how often it's done, that everybody comes together. So you're working, maybe you have a small fire department, but it really isn't small, because nearly every fire Peru is assisting with, and other towns are assisting with fires here too.
Yeah, with us, we have an auto aid agreement with LaSalle and vice versa, that any structure fire, any signs of smoke showing, we're both automatically rolling on that call. And that's all done through dispatch. So this just aids to that, and we're going to train together. And we're going to be able to offer Fire 2 classes, a lot of different classes here that we haven't been able to do in the past, because we just haven't had the facilities to do it.
Okay, do we have a motion to approve the ordinance as written and read?
So moved, Your Honor.
Second, Your Honor.
Have a motion by Alderman Perez, second by Alderman Ferrari to approve the ordinance as written and read. Is there any further discussion? Have a roll call vote, clerk call roll.
Alderman Putoff.
Aye.
Ferrari.
Aye.
Waldorf.
Aye.
Lukosius. Perez.
Aye.
Radke.
Aye.
Mueller.
Aye.
Sapienza.
Motion approved.
Dave, I had the building and grounds located south of Rotary Park, but I just received a voicemail that puts in that address. I'll give you corrected pages tomorrow. But then if we could get these, the city of LaSalle has a meeting tomorrow evening, and they're going to adopt the same ordinance.
Okay. Any unfinished business? Any new business? I'd like to open up dialogue on a city administrator. I've been talking about it for quite some time now. I'd like to move forward or put it to bed, one or the other. One way, I asked at the Finance Committee to plug in some numbers to see if it'll fit in our budget. that'll be prepared, that we'll be looking at, and if it does, we know that part of it. The other is to see if anybody thinks that we need a city administrator. It's a $50 million business we're running, and we need, in my mind, we need a city administrator. I've been traveling to different cities, talking to some. I was in Dixon on Friday. They ended up going to a city manager style of government through a referendum, and they put together a panel, a committee, if you will, to look into it. There's other towns that I've been there that have gone through the same thing. What I'm asking for is for anybody's thoughts on it at this time, and then if you have any problem with me going out and seeking candidates for a committee. I've thought about the committee two different ways. One, and this is what other communities have done. One way would be have no elected officials, go to business people, go to the ordinary resident, go to, you know, a variety of people. One is to put one or maybe two elected officials on the committee so they can hear everything firsthand. If we go that way, I would do probably senior alderman or whoever the senior alderman would designate for their representative. I would probably do one, which would be our public service administrator, and then five people from the public, and they would all be public meetings and whatnot, and we can explore and discuss, and the Professional Managers Association will come in and talk to us. But I believe that it's time, and once again, it's too big of a business to continue going the way we are, in my opinion.
I would highly support that, you know.
I think from the residents of Peru, what they expect is certainly professional services and professional aspects of the city being run at all the time. And I've seen it for a long time, Peru in business with a $55 million business. The amount of what we have economic development happening, the amount of business, the amount of public safety areas, and all of the projects that we have going on, and the many, I think we have 100-some employees, it would be more than worthwhile for the city to invest in that position. And you see a lot of cities that have that, and certainly it's a payback for the residents.
Well, I'm going to be the opposer. I think we got the people in the seats right now we need to have. The city's running very well. I think instead of spending the money on one person, need be, we could hire two more city employees if we needed them rather than hire a city administrator.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say that I'm willing to listen to anything, but I think I'd really have to be convinced that the city needs to hire somebody for what it's going to cost to hire an administrator, when the city already has a lot of department heads that know their job and know how to run their departments pretty well, and really look at the elected officials when there needs to be a tiebreaker, which is really, I mean, most of the time that's what I see is all they need is somebody to break ties. And so I'm just not convinced yet, but certainly willing to listen to anything. And if we are going to form a committee, the only thing I'd ask is that we form the committee by some type of ordinance or something where we set some boundaries on what the committee's responsibilities and roles are, because I think that would be appropriate.
I think I see public officials or elected officials in the mode of a policy mode. And what you look for when you do hire a city manager, you look for somebody who's carrying out that policy. And again, elected officials change all the time. You may be pleased of what you have at this point, or maybe the skill set is there within the city council. But I think to ensure the residents that we get that professionalism all the time, I think you start with the stop as a city manager.
Well said.
I agree with Alderman Radke. I'm going to have to be convinced. What would the salary range be?
In our community is unique with a community of 10,000, but having a budget of $50 million, so we're a little unique. The Managers Association says that our community would be anywhere in the range from 68 through 112. I asked Financial Officer Miller to plug in 125,000. Fringe benefits are roughly 40%, so it's the top end number. Just so we see, then we know that you can or cannot afford it. And for those that don't, that you're not convinced. I'm not asking you to be convinced just when I throw it out on the floor right now. I'm asking you to have an open mind and to look at it, put a committee together, see what's out there, see what the committee has to say, see what it comes up with. One item that I've heard from some is, what about my responsibility as an alderman? It takes absolutely nothing away from you. Your job actually is to approve budgets and to set policy that's put in front of you. That's what your job is. Many of you do much more, and that's wonderful. But I'm looking forward. I have a very good friend that's on the IML board with me, and he's in the process of doing it up in Belvedere, and he didn't like the way it was done before him. He sees better, and they're in the process that I'm asking to start. You know, once again, I'm not asking anybody to say, yes, we're going to hire administrator, and we're going to have HR put together a resume tomorrow for you to vote on 2 weeks from now. That's not what it is. This will probably be, it'll be a month or two past when the next budget is approved. You know, at least. I'm looking at, you know, you're probably looking at June, July, August, I don't know. But I do believe that it's time to move forward and look at this or put it to bed. I feel very strongly. I know what's out there, as you all know, through the IML board and the IMEA, you deal with many other cities and towns, and I know the way they work, and I know the way it works in here. It works very well, but I think it can be better. So that's my thoughts.
Back to my set of questions. At $125,000 in salary and a benefit package of 40%, we're looking at 200,000.
175. 175.
175. Will this person need a secretary?
Good chance of it.
Okay, hear me out. Hear me out. Devil's advocate. So then that salary will need to come out of the city coffers. We'll need computers. There'll be a cell phone and an expense account. Will this person get a car or an allowance for mileage? That we could be close to $200,000 or $250,000. I think the city is running very well right now. I think we have a city manager in place in the form of a team. I don't think it's ever been run better with the ASM and PSM, Eric Carls, Gary, Justin. If we've got that kind of money, I'd like to see it go to the use of some infrastructure. If we've got $200,000 or $250,000, we could replace a lot of aging water main. I think we levy $500,000 in taxes. I mean, if we've got $200,000 or $250,000, how about if we lower our levy and give the people a break on their property taxes? I think that should go right on the agenda for next week or for 2 weeks from now. I'm certainly willing to listen, but I'm not convinced right now, and I think it would be very much premature to put this into the budget for right now. We've got a lot of things to discuss. I think that the finance company the finance committee should be involved in the research and the presentation of this position. That's pretty much all I have to say, but I mean, if we've got that kind of money laying around and the city's running that well, I think that it could be put to better use.
I really don't see it as city money laying around. I see it as a real strong investment. I just look at the opportunities as somebody working on full-time economic development, somebody bringing in all of the departments into one. You look at a lot of different options that a city manager can bring you in professionalism, and just combining the simple services that you would have somebody, an MBA, something of that similar, working as far as running the city. I think I don't have any problems right now with the way the city is being run. Certainly we're in a positive revenue basis, and there's a lot of good things happening, including economic development. But I look at it as really an opportunity for our city to be something special or something different. for future years, and the potential really existing with the city manager. You're ensuring that all of those different areas are going to run effectively if you do have a good manager. So I'm open-minded. Again, you know, I agree. You have to take a look at the finances. You have to look at a lot of things. But I'm not here to say no at this point. I'm looking at it as really a good opportunity for the city.
I think that there are two positions being discussed here. One is a city manager, and the other is a city administrator, and they're quite a bit different. From the little bit that I know about this, I'm in favor of a city administrator more so than a city manager. If you look into the thing, maybe there's quite a bit of difference between the two positions. And furthermore, somebody mentioned the amount that we as elected officials know, especially coming in. And I know that coming in, the amount of information that you have to, that you're assumed to understand right away is overwhelming. It's not a walk in the door and you know everything and you can make the decisions. Every decision, if you're really concerned about it, takes a lot of research. And I just want to throw that out there for a little thought.
Yeah, and that's why it's a good idea for us to research this and see where we go with it.
What I'm asking for at this time is for you to support an ordinance that we put together for me to form a committee. That's all. It's just a steering committee.
100%.
Everybody else, otherwise, you know, I have a lot of work ahead of me to go out and put these people together, and I don't want to do it and then have to tell them once I have the committee, let you know who it is, and then we sign it and then it goes down on the floor, because you know then it's work for absolutely nothing. So what I'm asking for is support to put together a committee. Keep an open mind. There's some that don't want it. There's some that want it. Whatever. See what happens.
I don't think we're talking about administrator or manager.
Manager's up to the voters. If anybody out in the audience wanted to right now, they could go and they could pick up 5% of the last mayoral election vote, and it could be on the ballot, not this ballot, but the you know, not the April ballot, but it could be on the ballot. Then you go to a complete different style of government. Then if you have a city manager, you have no choice in the matter. City manager absolutely runs the show with the consent of the council for just your yes or your no for policy. Approving the budget and saying yes or no to policy. That's the city manager style of government. Administrator, you can take the city manager and you can do whatever you want with it. Now you must be careful that, and this will all come up in the future, but you must be careful you don't take too much away, because then you're going to limit the field that you have looking to be a city administrator. So like I said, all I'm asking for, because I need to start on this tomorrow to put a committee together, show you the names, and what's one school of thought up here. As I said, I can go out, I'm looking at a panel of 7. I can go out and I can find 7, or I can find 5 and have the senior alderman or whoever the senior alderman designate as his representative. And I'm looking at Chief Burnaby along with Assistant Administrative Service Manager Burnaby. So for the 6th or 7th person, what have you, or the 1st or 2nd, however you want to look at it. What does anybody think about that? Which would you rather me go for? Find 7 people or find 5 people?
I'd say find 7, like involve the community a little bit more.
7?
7.
And once everybody, there'll be open meetings. You know, they'll be published in open meetings by all means. So
I would say put the citizens on the committee, because I think really, I don't think you need elected officials on the committee. I mean, at the public meetings, I gotta believe most of the elected officials are gonna try to make as many as they can anyway. Right?
that's a good school of thought. I can't deny that. Well, once again, that goes to where the council sets the policy with what's in front of you. You can either say yes or you can say no, take it back to the drawing board, one of the two. You know. So, all right, then it sounds to me like everybody didn't say yes tonight to hiring a city manager in a meeting in 2 weeks, but everybody said yes tonight to going along with, you know, going out and finding people for a committee, in a 7-person committee, none of them elected people in the, you know, our elected officials. Okay, I have a email from the city website, Ask Your Mayor a Question, entitled Political Campaign Signs. When can candidates start putting up political campaign yard signs, and are there restrictions on size? So I wrote them back. I have attached the ordinance that pertains to your question of political signage. The state of Illinois passed a law of no restriction as a protection of the First Amendment rights, freedom of speech. You have the right to display signage 365 days a year. With the 2011 legislation that was passed in Springfield, they didn't challenge the First Amendment right. So as you can see in attachment page 67, that's our ordinance. We are asking the signage to be no more than 60 days prior to election to preserve the character of the community. In this election cycle, the date would be Saturday, February 7th, 2015, which is 60 days in advance of the April 7th, 2015 municipal election. If there are any further questions or material, please don't hesitate to ask. We passed that ordinance. It was an sign ordinance amended on August 11, 2014. It passed with a motion made by Alderman Mueller, second by Alderman Lukosius, and it passed 8-0. And once again, just because the election season is upon us, 60 days isn't upon us yet, but hopefully, we don't have the community littered up with signs that much before the 60 days. There can be not more than one sign per candidate or referendum position shall be permitted on private property. The number of different candidates or referendum positions for which signs may be displayed is limited to 6 signs total in a yard. A sign for each candidate or referendum position shall be limited to 16 square feet, and a limit of 1 sign per yard per candidate, 1 sign per yard per candidate. A total area of all signs permitted, the 6 signs that we're talking about, is 48 square feet. Now, reading the state statute today, they put in, which we don't have it in here, we have 48 square feet. They put in 2 by 3 maximum. So we have a 4 by 4 sign that we can put in. They have a 2 by 3 maximum. So actually, we're not complying with the state on that. Signs may be up to 5 feet off the ground only. So if you have a 4 by 4 sign, it can only be a foot off the ground for a total of 5. Duration, residential, no restrictions due to the state law that was passed in 2011. But it is recommended that signs be put up only 60 days in advance of any election in order to preserve the character of the community. It is also recommended that signs must be maintained and must look reasonable during this period. For non-residential, we do have a little leeway, and political signs are allowed only during the period beginning 45 days before the election and ending 5 days after the election. So to answer the email that came on December 30th at 9:29 a.m., as I said, on the City Approved website, and now hopefully the press, and you can have copies of the ordinance, because once again, it'll be city signage times coming up here very soon. Does anybody have any questions on those? And then the other, here, we'll pass these out. The other one that came up, I've been asked to address the council on state statute, election interference. As used in this section, public funds means any funds appropriated by the Illinois General Assembly or by any political subdivision of the state of Illinois. No public funds shall be used to urge any elector to vote for or against any candidate or proposition, or be appropriated for political or campaign purposes to any candidate or political organization. And there's more. But it came up there was an event over the weekend, and it came up, and I was asked about it, so I'm putting it out in front of the council for your review of the state statute and what you want to do, whether there was public funds that are not supposed to be used for election purposes. So does anybody have anything to add on that, or just let it go, forget it, whatever?
What public funds were used?
The building in the park, electricity, whatnot. Is that splitting hairs? I don't know. I don't write the law. I'm not an attorney. I don't make the law. All I'm doing is passing on what I was asked to pass on. So is there any comment?
Well, I certainly don't have any any problem with events for children. I mean, what's wrong is wrong. If there's public funds that were used, I mean, if there were, there were. Now what?
Anybody else?
Well, it'd be nice if there was public funds that it would stop, and then we'd start abiding by the rules that we've got set up.
Well, it's Illinois state statute. This isn't ours.
Well, we need to abide by them.
Well, if a violation did occur, what's the penalty for a violation of the statute?
Well, as the statute reads, under C, the first time any person violates any provision of this section, that person shall be guilty of a Class B misdemeanor. Upon the second or any subsequent violations of any provision of this section, the person violating the provision of this section shall be guilty of a Class A misdemeanor. So I don't know if you want to look into it deeper or what.
What do you mean by look into it deeper? How could we do that?
The alleged violation.
I remember when we had violations in the past, they were always looked into, weren't they? Weren't they, or is it just my imagination?
It's always worth looking into, that's for sure. Okay, look into it.
Anybody? Because what I would do, you know, it reads Class B misdemeanor, and I'd turn it over to the chief of police and go from there. What do you do with that, chief?
I'm not sure exactly. I'd have to read the statute. I'm not familiar with it, but if I was asked to look into it, I certainly would. If I thought there was a conflict, I'd have somebody else handle the investigation other than myself or the department. But I'd have to read the statute.
Well, I agree with Alderman Perez. Should be looked into it.
Let's look into it then.
Anybody else? Turn it over to Chief Burnaby. Alderman Putoff, Ferrari, Waller, DeCoches? Okay, Chief, it's yours. Any other new business? Proclamation. Petitions, communications.
I have one communication tonight from the firefighters and friends fighting for Gary requesting permission to hold the annual water fights between the area emergency personnel at Centennial Park on June 20 through the 21st, 2015, and permission to close 13th Street between West Street and Putnam Street for the hours of 9 a.m. to 6 p.m.
I'll make a motion permission be granted.
I'll second that, Your Honor.
Have a motion from Alderman Putoff, second by Alderman Perez to receive the communication and grant the permission for the annual water fights, June 20th and 21st, 2015. Is there any discussion? All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carried. Any other petitions, communications?
No, Your Honor.
Public comment? Do we have any public comment? You can either sit at your seat with the microphone or approach the podium, whichever you prefer.
Speak loudly. Oh, boy.
Yes, I'd just like to comment. You can't hear me? Can you hear? Okay. I'd just like to comment on the whole weekend event that you guys are talking about as far as it being for campaigning. This event that you're speaking of is like probably the third or fourth time that this event has taken place, and it's never once been brought up as it being a campaign issue until this year. I mean, you guys are really grasping here. It's an event that, I mean, put on for the kids. It's a fun day for the kids and family. And I don't know. I think you guys are really grasping at things here. That's all.
Okay, any other public comment? Public comment? Okay, do we have a closed session? We have a motion for adjournment.
So moved, Your Honor.
A motion by Alderman Ferrari, second by Alderman LaCourtis for adjournment. All in favor, signify by aye.
Aye.
All opposed, meeting adjourned.